I'm Pauline Maloney, and this is The War Years, Vietnam. The Vietnam War reflected the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. The United States represented capitalism, Soviet Union, communism. This series will feature interviews with our Vietnam War veterans from the tri-state area. And my guest today is Dick Bridges. Welcome to the program, Dick.
Thank you, Pauline. I'm glad to be here.
Now, Dick, I know you were in the Air Force during the Vietnam War, but before we get to the war years, would you tell us a little bit about your background?
Okay, my parents lived in southern Iowa near Oskaloosa, and they were farmers. And my father was drafted into World War II, sold the farm. Mom had to move back in with my grandmother, and Dad went off to World War II for 4 years. Then when he returned, they couldn't get started in farming again. There wasn't any way financially to do that. So he got a job working for Wright Tree Service. And I was born shortly thereafter, and we lived in a mobile home. Dad was foreman of a Wright Tree Service tree crew, and they cleared power lines and electrical lines in the little towns in the Dakotas and southern Minnesota, and we ended up in Dubuque. And it was about that time, it was time for me to go to school, and my mom said, find a job in Dubuque. Dad worked until he retired at Dubuque Packing Company.
So you were here in Dubuque, started your school, and where did you go to school in those early years?
Well, I was a North End boy. We lived out on John Deere Road, and I went to school at West Stone Hill School, which is hasn't been there for a long time. It was next to the driving range on John Deere Road, and it was 2-story brick, 4 rooms, which had 7 classes in them, combined classes. And there were 2 outhouses out back, one for the boys and one for the girls.
Rather primitive, you know.
It was, but we did just fine. There's no such thing as gym or hot lunch programs or formal music or formal gym programs. You went outside and played. That was it. And then on to Jefferson Junior High School and graduated from Dubuque Senior High School in 1964.
Well, then when you graduated, did you have any plans? School, work?
My parents wanted me to attend college, and I did not want to do that because I did not have any idea what I wanted to study, what to do with my life. So I didn't have a lot of options in those days because I could see that I was going to get drafted. So I was looking at the military service. I was looking at the Marine Corps, which I loved for the prestige and for the uniform, or the Air Force, where I thought I could find a career. And I chose the Air Force.
Looking back on that, you know, in retrospect, do you think that choosing the Air Force was really the best decision you made?
Yes, it was, because they didn't train me in the career of my life, but they introduced me to it. I was guarding a site near the end of my Air Force career in Florida, an experimental site that was full of IBM machines and IBM company programmers. In my spare time, I would visit with them and get to know them, and I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life. So in January, I start my 40th year as a computer programmer, and it was all because I found that profession in the Air Force.
See, that's fantastic. Well, let's start with your Air Force career, and let's start with basic training. Where did you take your basic training?
In San Antonio, Texas. Yeah, it was quite an experience.
Why do you say that?
Well, we all went down to Des Moines. Lots of kids in those days were going through their indoctrination and passing a physical, joining the service, and then going your separate ways to the different armed forces boot camps. But when we arrived at Lackland Air Force Base, it was late at night, and there were a line of sergeants standing there to form small groups out of the hundreds of us, scream at us, and just generally make us feel uncomfortable. A lot of the guys had long hair and beards, and they really picked on them. I got myself a pretty short haircut before I went down there, so it started out easy for me.
Yeah, a smart move on your part.
Well, that didn't last long. They get to everybody before it's over.
Well, where were you then stationed after that, after you went through basic?
My first year was really a Cold War assignment. I was in the Strategic Air Command at Kincheloe Air Force Base in Michigan. And my career became security police, air police. or air police renamed to security police, guarding bombers that had nuclear weapons on them for the Cold War. And
Lovely place.
oh, Sault Ste. Marie is on the tip of the Great Lakes, right there by the locks, and has some tremendous lake effect snow. The snow piles were so high and so deep that there'd be remnants of them into May before they were all gone. And it was just to spend 8 hours guarding a plane with, I can't imagine anybody coming by to do anything to it, any enemy up in the middle of nowhere like that. But that was our job, and that's what we did.
One of the things that's interesting about that area is the fact that you are out and you're totally exposed and everything. And you knew that this was going to be a long assignment. So what did you do? How did you deal with that? It was supposed to be a 4-year?
I hated it. It was a 4-year assignment. For when I got there, everybody was so depressed that it was up there. There was nothing to do on the off hours. The summer was so short. And we, over some beers one night, we devised a plan to get out of there. The Vietnam War was kicking in, and they needed people for that. So we decided to create the Air Force a lot of paperwork. We would go over to the main administration building and volunteer for Vietnam at the first of the month. And at the first of the next month, we would go over and withdraw a voluntary statement. Either one of those actions caused a pile of paperwork all the way up to the Pentagon and back. So the first of the next month, you'd volunteer again. I think it only took 4 months until 10 of us got our orders. So it worked for us.
It worked for you. You got out of there. But I guess when people hear that, you got your orders, they automatically think, well, then you went to Vietnam. But you really didn't go to Vietnam right off the bat. You had a couple little side trips. Would you tell us about them?
Well, the first thing is it takes a tremendous amount of preparation at the base you're at before you leave. Getting all your shots, your medical records, pay records, getting everything squared away. And then there's a matter of training. Most of the people who did my job in this country at that time were carrying old Korean War weapons. So we needed to go somewhere and get updated on weapons before we went to over to the war to use the modern weapons that they were using. We were using carbines, M1 carbines. So we all flew out to California, all of us that did the job I did, and we were trained to use the M16 rifle and a brand new great big M60 machine gun. And also there was a new hand grenade that we would throw. And it wasn't so much that we needed training to use a new hand grenade. It worked the same way, but it did fire. They taught us to fire it off the end of a rifle, which I never ever. I don't even know anyone that ever did it. But there was an attachment you could put on there. And
could you give me a comparison between the old ones were they're called pineapple.
They look like a pineapple, right? And the new ones had a smooth surface on them.
See, so to me, the pineapple would be much more effective because it fragments off.
The pineapple had a lot of big chunks.
Yes.
Whereas inside of the more modern one, as I'm told, there was a mile of wire. And so there'd be so many more little fragments, it would do much more damage.
Okay, so it would be definitely more effective.
Right. But when we got where we're going, there weren't enough of them. So we ended up buying the World War II pineapples back from the locals, the local army, so that we had hand grenades to use. So we ended up carrying those. Okay,
you mentioned that you could launch it off with a rifle. Tell me how give me a visual.
Well, you couldn't do that with the pineapple. And I don't even, it was just like a little metal attachment you put over the barrel. And then they would teach you to use the strap to